Government assures that fiscal measures will not hinder projected growth. We'll have the details to this story and more in the National Report.
Grenada. The time for the national census is here again. Interviewers will be visiting your homes to gather information about you and your family. The data you provide determines budget allocation for health, grant funding for community projects, and government assistance for families and the elderly. The census is required by law, and so is your participation. We assure you that your information will be kept confidential. Do your part. Stand up and be counted, because we all count in this census. For more information about the census and your participation, contact the Grenada Central Statistical Office at 440-1369 or cso@cso.gov.gd.
Welcome back. With the details to the news for Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, I am Sherry-Ann Noel. Government says the implementation of fiscal measures from March 1st will in no way hinder projected growth for 2023. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Mike Sylvester, told GIS on Thursday that the decision taken by government to increase value-added and excise taxes on items and reduce on others will not obstruct revenue collection and growth projections for the year. Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell first announced the measures during the presentation of the 2023 budget in December. Some of the measures due to logistical concerns were delayed from January and February and implemented on March 1st, 2023. PS Sylvester explained that government's intention is to encourage countermeasures to promote revenue generation and healthy lifestyles.
The sugary beverages and so on, we estimate that will generate about $6.4 million. Now, as I said initially, the measure is more so a health impact. And in some respect, it in other words, it's a countermeasure for the exemptions that have been provided. Because as we mentioned earlier, the government full package is about $30 million that you're basically giving up by virtue of the measures that were implemented. So with the tax on or increasing tax on sugary beverages, while it is clearly a health measure, it will generate about $6.4 million. In that context, yeah. I mentioned the increase in alcohol, that's the excess of alcohol and cigarettes and so on. The estimate of my head, I just can't figure just in my head, but off my head, I think it's about 3.4 million there, but that we estimated that will generate in terms of additional revenues. But in a general sense, the measures that were implemented were to achieve revenue neutrality. In other words, while you take out some in the one context, you then basically have a countermeasure that will provide the additional revenue. So you don't find yourself in a position where you are actually losing significant revenue and you cannot meet your commitments at the end of the year.
Effective March 1st, government implemented the additional 5% tax increase on sweetened beverages. However, drinks with 100% natural fruit and vegetable juices and those sweetened with honey are among products exempted from the additional tax.
There are some exemptions, as you would see in the SRNO or the Statutory Rules and Order. So the increase in 5% increase in tax will not apply to 100% natural fruit and vegetable juices. It would not apply to juices that are sweetened by natural sweeteners like honey and stevia and some of these other natural products. You will have some of these drinks that are used for nutritional support. They will not be applied on that. Also, drinks that are used as in terms of sports drinks and so on, as supporting rehydration and so on. The additional tax will not apply on that. Also, milk and soya used in infant preparation, and also some of those juices that are for infant use. Some of the exemptions that would apply on the 5% increase.
The increase in excise tax on alcoholic beverages, the 100% concession on production equipment to support the creative economy, as well as income tax on lottery winnings over $10,000 were also implemented effective March 1st.
an increase from $1.10 and $4.40 to you have $5, so $1.50 and $5, right? And just to make the point that that is on basically an alcohol that you consume, so it doesn't apply to alcohol-based products like rubbing alcohol, methylated spirits, hand sanitizer, and so on. That's important to note. There is also an additional measure that was implemented. In fact, it was enacted back in 2014, and that is a 15% withholding tax on lottery winnings in excess of $10,000. So if you were to win in a lottery and you win $10,500, there will be a 15% withholding tax on the $500. Yeah, that was enacted back in 2014. For some reason, it was never implemented, and so that implementation will take effect from the 1st of March, because the act should have taken effect on the date it was enacted. There is no need for an additional commencement date and so on. So basically, it's to advise when that will take effect.
Moving along, the Wage Advisory Committee is making significant progress in addressing minimum wage concerns for public officers and workers. Legal Affairs, Labor and Consumer Affairs Minister, Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph, says public and stakeholder consultations will be held during the month to determine a decent minimum wage for the country. The Wage Advisory Committee was established late last year and is chaired by economist Dr. Curlin Gilchrist. The last review of the minimum wage was done in 2011. Senator Joseph says government wants to have the minimum wage issue addressed by January 2024. And from all indications, the committee is on target with the timeline.
During this month, the Minimum Wages Committee will be engaging the public sector through the Senior Management Board of the Public Service, the Department of Public Administration, and the government negotiating team. They are now in discussions with the unions. Also the Ministries of Finance and Economic Development, and also mobilization, implementation, and transformation, among others. In relation to the private sector, the committee will be engaging with manufacturers, then persons in the tourism sector, the services sector, the creative industry, agriculture, construction, and there will be general public town hall meetings. So we look forward to this work, and we look forward to the committee by the middle of this year by May actually, submitting its final report to Cabinet, and by June, July, the actual statutory instrument, the minimum wages order, should be completed and ready for publication, with the hope that by January 2024, the new minimum wages will take effect in Grenada.
The Legal Affairs Minister further explained that the committee intends to, from consultative process, broaden the scope of the minimum wage and not have it remain limited to certain occupations. Consideration will also be given to the creation of equity among genders and geographic location.
The considerations that the committee will be taken into account in engaging in the consultations is that we aim at the end of the process to regularize or to equalize minimum wages across parishes and gender. As you know, as it stands now under the current minimum wages order, in some respects, the agricultural workers, women are paid less than men. In some parishes, so a bartender in St. Patrick gets a lower minimum wage than a bartender in St. George. So these are the matters the committee is looking at, and we are hoping to bring equity in terms of gender and locale for all workers in Grenada. The hope too is to broaden the scope of the minimum wages order to include occupations in the media, for example, because you are not part of the minimum wages order now. So media workers, workers in ICT, the creative industry, and any other occupations that may arise either in the private or public sector during the consultations that will be held.
This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break.
Have you noticed an increase or decrease in your electricity bill? You know that changes in the fuel and non-fuel rates affect your bill. You should also be aware that changes in household activities affect your bill. Ask yourself these questions. Have the rates changed? Have there been more people at your home? Have your children been on holiday? Have you used your fan or air conditioning unit more often to beat the heat? Are any of your electrical appliances or equipment faulty? Have you added any new appliances such as transformers, water heaters, or pumps? Make it a habit to understand any changes on your electricity bill. For more factors that affect your bill, visit www.grenlec.com. Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Welcome back. Economic Development, ICT, Tourism and Creative Economy Minister Honorable Lennox Andrews says government must create its own digital infrastructure if it is to effectively regulate and facilitate economic activities. He said the way forward must be driven by internet and technology. Minister Andrews was delivering remarks at the ICT Week Forum at the Grenada Trade Center Annex. ICT and digitization have been listed among areas of priority for the Deacon Mitchell-led administration as pillars that will promote economic development. Minister Andrews says the trust of government and his ministry is to get to a place where there are no gaps and barriers and everyone will have equal access to technology.
All citizens must have equitable access to reliable and secure internet connectivity and must have smart devices to go online. There must be no barrier to what must be literally considered a basic commodity. Where this gap exists, we must seek to quickly identify and bridge them or remove them in real time. This is the present thrust of our ministry at this point in time.
His remarks focus on the theme Government in a Digital Age, Improving Service, Empowering Communities and Accelerating Development. He outlined 2 projects that will soon be implemented to keep Grenada on the cutting edge and on par with regional and international countries.
The Digital Governance for Resilience project, which we commonly call DG4R, and the Caribbean Transformation Digital Project, CADIP. DG4R seeks to achieve the overall goal of a fully digital public service and society. It aims firstly to build the enterprise architecture and enabling institutional, regulatory, and technological environment to construct and deliver e-services. One is a civil registry, where citizens can apply for birth, death, marriage, and adoption certificates and pay for them online or in person. And the other is a tax administration system, where citizens can access core tax services and the government can perform core tax administrative processes in a digital environment that is accessible online at kiosk and in person.
Minister Andrews commended the cybersecurity incident response team on the progress made so far in keeping Grenadians safe and informed as the country moves into the digital era.
An ongoing initiative of my ministry under this project that I must highlight here is the Grenada CSAT Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. Launched just about 9 months ago, CSAT GND has made tremendous inroads and gained a significant and visible uptake in educating and helping Grenadian citizens and businesses stay safer online. The CSAT will eventually morph into a full-fledged national cybersecurity agency. Grenada is also working towards and will soon pass its Data Protection Act, which will lead to the establishment of a data commission. The project will also deliver during the first half of this year a host of digital skills training initiatives done in partnership with the National Trade Agency aimed at enhancing the capacity of public officers and the general public, so they will acquire the required skill sets necessary to efficiently function and be productive in this new digital paradigm.
And finally in the news, as Grenada prepares to roll out its National Soil Survey initiative, extension officers and assistants have been engaged in a soil sampling training exercise aimed at building capacity ahead of the scheduled survey. The Grenada Soil Survey exercise will run from 27th March 2023 to April 14th, 2023. This initiative forms part of the Soil Care project. Under this project, a number of sites have been identified for soil sampling: Les Avocats in St. David, Chambord in St. Patrick, and 3 sites in Carriacou. At the intervention sites, a complete assessment will be carried out and issues surrounding land degradation will be addressed. National Soil Care Focal Point Alison Haynes explains the essence of the soil survey.
We want to do some assessment, assess the area before we implement whatever sustainable practices that we are under the project. So we're going to do an assessment now, a complete assessment of the area, looking at the land, looking at some key indicators for land degradation. Here now, we're going to implement the practices or whatever we're going to implement, and then in a few years from now, we're going to come back and do a similar assessment and evaluate whether the measures that was undertaken here was effective.
Manager of the Soil Care project, Trevor Thompson, says Grenada is the second of 8 Caribbean islands that will conduct the soil survey. He said it will focus on nutrients, carbon sequestration, and organic matter content. The data collected will be used for the production of a soil map.
For example, if you want to build a house, you know that soil has the capacity to sustain, your building. You're going to do a bridge. If the government going to do a playing field, is it a soil that is susceptible to land slippage, subsidence, etc. So all of those information we will have. We're actually going to do some work to see what are some of the remedial actions we could take to address the land degradation.
Soil scientist and training facilitator Ronan Francis says the training is important for the extension officers' effectiveness in conducting the survey.
For you as the persons going out and meeting and interacting with the farmers especially, and other land stakeholders, it's important to understand the living body that we are walking on and making use of, and understanding its dynamics. There are a few things that we're going to go through today in terms of looking at the structure of the soil, the stability, the organic matter content, the texture, and infiltration capacity, just to give us an in-field understanding of the soil behavior within the different locations. In this intervention site, what we want to do is try to just assess, based on the vegetation, especially the land cover that is here, the different dynamics of the soils in 1 or 2 other locations.
150 soil samples are expected to be collected island-wide, 110 in Grenada and 40 in Carriacou. And with that, story comes to the end of the National Report for Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sherry Ann Noel, thanking you for viewing.